So I've recently completed this sketchbook. It's a Hanamule sketchbook. I think it's a German brand, and I found that the paper is pretty decent. Usually I use my handmade sketchbook, but I found it a nice change for me. I've been using it for my pen and ink class that I've been teaching, as well as for my personal comics, my own urban sketching, and for whatever drawing experiments I wanted to try out. So let's look inside. So I drew this after returning from my Perth vacation with 4 kids, my kids and Roger's kids. And I drew this late at night when it was really quiet. Believe it or not, I was using food coloring from the supermarket to paint this. I think I might have drawn this on the same night. I wear this earmuff to sleep and it makes it extra quiet for me, and I can sleep a lot better. Here I was trying out how different inks and watercolors settle on this paper. Like when it dries, what kind of marks does it make? Because I was deciding whether to use this sketchbook for my pen and ink class or not. And these textures were made from spraying water with a spray while it was still wet. So in this one I was trying to not outline every single part. I would just outline the essential parts and then leaving some parts to the colored shapes to define. In this one I was trying to see how Indian ink and Ecoline ink settle on this paper, because I was deciding whether I should introduce it to my pen and ink class, which I eventually did. This was an urban sketch around a neighborhood before I picked my daughter up from school, just using white, black, light mid-tone and a dark mid-tone. More tests with inks in a water brush. During this time, in order to feed my son medicine, we had to play Peppa Pig on the phone, and then we could feed him his medicine. A very fast and loose sketch at a food center. I kept it fast by not trying to join all the lines, so I left a lot of gaps, and somehow that allowed me to draw quicker. My 2-year-old son eating at a Japanese restaurant one evening. A cat around my neighborhood. This one I drew it from a photo, and with a stick like this, dipped in ink. It gives a really nice raw organic line. If you're in Singapore, you might know Asing, who helps run Straits Art Co., one of my favorite art stores in Singapore. I drew this at the clinic while waiting for my son to see the doctor. Sketching usually helps me to feel more productive during these waiting times and kind of calms my brain down. This is a drawing from one of my videos. A quick sketch at a food court. It's not very clear what's happening, but I just drew a bunch of customers all combined into one picture. I drew this while sitting in the car, so this is what I could see from where I was parked. This is not an urban sketching picture, but I was sketching this while queuing up at a thosai store, and I kind of drew the man that was making my thosai. I also wrote down what the man was telling an elderly lady that morning. Sketching people during a Zoom meeting, writing down some thoughts I was pondering on, and trying to draw a picture that goes with it, just using a brush. This is my friend Roger drawing at a cafe. He was drawing me, and I was drawing him. And of course, there's chatting while we were drawing. I think we were discussing about the idea that it's good to have a social circle as we get older. Another morning with my wife and kids, and this was a church far off in the distance. I was attracted to the curves of this building. Why did I draw this? I think I was just practicing drawing with a brush and watercolor instead of pen and ink. Some ideas I think it'll be cool to work on. I was just letting my imagination go on a journey, visiting strange lands, strange people. I drew this with a Tachikawa tank nib and watercolor. It's a small nib, kind of like a mapping pen nib, so it can hold lots of ink because of this reservoir here. And I found that it can pretty much draw a whole page of drawing with just one dip, well, depending on how many lines you use, of course. That's just slides in there. And yes, it's flexible. I have to use up the ink. My wife and my son having lunch. I like to capture scenes that have meaning for me. And you notice that I write in details that the picture doesn't fully communicate. Trying out pencil and wash. has a softer look to it rather than pen and ink. I actually drew this for my son because presently he likes diggers, trucks, fire engines, vehicles like that. But I found that he wasn't too impressed with this picture. I think it's because the man was blocking the digger. I thought the man would be the main attraction, but to him the digger is more important than the man. I messed up the face here and I just got another piece of paper, drew on it and pasted over. I think this is the best part of the picture. I drew this with gouache, color pencils and pencil. Oh yes, and ink too, so this is mixed media. Here I learned my lesson and just focused on the vehicles. I asked my son to supply me with the numbers and this is what he gave me. Having coffee with Roger. In this one, I was showing Roger how I get rid of my fear of drawing on a page. So what I did was I used my water brush with ink in it and just messed up the page first, and then I drew him over this messy thing. And I do like how it looked. This picture came out too dark. It's okay, it's just part of experimenting and trying out. This was across the road from the coffee shop we were at. Just some thoughts I was pondering on, translated into a comic story. The approach for this was kind of fun. I just started out with the wash, just some random colored shapes, and then tried to fill in some details and make sense of the shapes, and this is kind of what came out. This is actually an exercise that I was doing for my pen and ink class. More tonal value exercises during my class. These were referenced from photos from Pinterest. Drawing other people sitting at a coffee shop, just drawing the scenes around the same location. I believe this was drawn with the stick as well. Again, this was the same technique where I just did some random washes on the paper. And when I did the blacks, I slowly defined what the drawing could be. Drawing my wife and kids as they played at a public pool over the weekend. Drawing my son at the playground. I did this for my video on textures. Drawing fans at a food center with the stick while waiting for my friend to get his food. And this was a demonstration I was doing in class of the same scene here, but I didn't get to finish it as I was checking up on the students in class. My journal entry comics. I colored these comics and you can find them on my blog. I'll put the link in the description. Just a collection of thoughts during the day. A test exercise for my class while hanging out with my comic artist friends. More exercises I was planning for my class. So usually I try to draw them at home first and see how difficult they are, but eventually I didn't get them to do these. This is a sharpener on my table here. A drawing I did at home to prepare for my class. A house in a neighborhood around my area. Exercises in class, drawing at a Starbucks. So this was a drawing I did in class, and for this one I showed them that to get rid of their fear of ruining their drawing, just ruin it first by using a light mid-tone wash and just paint over the page, and then start your drawing and just continue as normal. And because it's already ruined, I find that I have less fear of ruining it more. I seldom have beer, but I was having beer with my friends that night, and this was a scene looking out from the bar. The Korean beer that night tasted really good. This was drawn during lunchtime while waiting for my daughter to finish her food at an Indian coffee shop. The same one where I shot this picture, but I drew this from a photo. These guys are the same. And you can see that this picture is more spontaneous too. It's a lot looser because things are in motion, so I had to draw a lot quicker. This is a Things That Inspire Me Today page. Oh, I have not finished coloring this comic. I'll just color it now. Here is how it looks like colored. It's a random comic about finding coffee, and I just wanted to do it as a 3-part story structure where there's a problem, they try and they fail, and then there's a solution. It's not perfect, but I got the job done. Thoughts in my head translated as a comic. I'll color this too, and here it is. So I just used watercolor and I colored this. Tonal value studies done during my class. Just using comics to journal my thoughts. A quick sketch for my students during class. Roger eating thunder tea rice. My cousin at a cafe. I was doing the wash first and then the lines. Everything done with watercolors and a brush. Drawing from a photograph on Pinterest in my class. I accidentally drew the arm here too big. But with pen and ink, you can't really change it. You just have to roll with it. You probably saw this in my other video already. Drawn from reference photographs from Pinterest. Using my acrylic gouache that's been sitting around for too long. Just playing around with lights and darks. Random scenes. Learning from my friend who draws really uncomplex shapes. Acrylic gouache again. Here I was doing a no tan exercise, something I picked up from watching a Skillshare course. I cut out this doodle that I was drawing on a loose piece of paper. So this is a collage I did using the messes from my kids' paintings that I covered in my other video. I cut this out from a linen catalog that my wife wanted to throw away. More thoughts translated into comic stories. Lunch and sketching do go together. Capturing thoughts in my head. Just daily life sketches. Waiting to pick my daughter from school, drinking coffee, having lunch with my daughter. More comics. More no-tan exercises where I use light and dark and try to balance the weight of the picture. Actually, I find it pretty calming and therapeutic. So hopefully this inspires you in some way, and thanks for watching.